There have been massive protests in Texas against the Trump regime following the murder by ICE Gestapo and Border Patrol Gestapo of Renee Nicole Good. Say her name, Renee Nicole Good. But even more than the massive protests that we're seeing in Texas against the Trump regime, when you take a look at the latest polling data in Texas, Donald Trump's net approval is -6. His overall approval in Texas, which many people believe is a ruby red state, although I believe it is a voter suppressed state, Trump's approval is at 44%. And when you go through some of the crosstabs on individual issues, Donald Trump's like -20, -22 when it comes to things like inflation and the economy. Let's just go through this together. Also, the people in Texas are pissed at their governor, Abbott. They're pissed at their legislature. They're pissed at the MAGA Republicans there in general. This is, so you take a look right here, Trump's overall approval, only 44%. You look at Trump's net approval on the economy right now, it's -12%. You go to inflation, Trump is -20%. On health care, he's -22%. Governor Abbott right now, MAGA Republican governor's -3%. Ted Cruz, 13. Attorney General Paxton, -7%. And Senator Cornyn, who's up for re-election, -21%. When you look at how people in Texas view Donald Trump's foreign policy, -10% right there in foreign policy. Now you're starting to see MAGA Republicans in Texas defect against Donald Trump on key issues like the Affordable Care Act, tax credits, the subsidies that lower the price on the Affordable Care Act. Now, when Donald Trump was flying back from Mar-a-Lago to Washington, D.C. last night on Air Force One, he said that if the Senate were to pass a bill to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, that he would likely veto it. I'll play that in just a moment. But you've got MAGA Republican Congress members like Monica de Cruz in Texas joining with the Democrats in the House of Representatives to pass the Affordable Care Act subsidy extensions. She's from Edinburgh, and she was a Texas Republican, the only Texas Republican, but still one who voted against Donald Trump and voted for the extension of the Affordable Care Act's tax subsidies. Here's what she writes. Rising healthcare costs remain a concern for many in our South Texas communities. I have been committed to working with members on both sides of the aisle to find a bipartisan solution to expand options for families, lower healthcare costs, and require price transparency for prescription drug prices. While this is not what we initially wanted, today's vote is in the best interest of South Texas families and the only option to bring certainty for those who rely on these credits. South Texas, in particular, has benefited from the expanded tax credits. Over 20% of residents are enrolled in the ACA in numerous counties in the region, including Duval, Hidalgo, and Starr counties. De Cruz's district in both its current and future redistricted iteration includes much of Hidalgo County. Now, in response to the massive protests, you had MAGA Republican Governor Greg Abbott seem to praise the police for cracking down on some of the protests. And Greg Abbott goes, Texas is not Minnesota. It's interesting, though, because Austin is a more liberal city, but and that's where Austin police have charged into the crowd. But he goes, Texas is not Minnesota, to which many commentators said, yeah, you're right there, Abbott. On the one hand, Governor Abbott vetoed funding for federal summer lunch programs for low-income children. On the other hand, Governor Walz of Minnesota signed universal school meal bills into Minnesota law. On the one hand, Minnesota's crime rate homicide rate is about 3 per 100,000, whereas Texas's homicide rate is basically double, about 5. No percent, zero. So twice as unsafe in Texas. Now, We've actually heard from people in Texas House of Representative hearings when Texas was going to do and did the unlawful gerrymandering to try to rig the midterms. But fortunately, California responded. Remember when there was this Texas voter right here who torched Donald Trump and Greg Abbott? Here, play this clip. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I want to start out by saying this. He was caught cheating on video on the golf course. He cheated on his taxes. He cheated on his business loans. Thank
you for this opportunity to speak. I want to start out by saying this. He was caught cheating on video on the golf course. He cheated on his taxes. He cheated on his business loans. He cheated on his wives. He cheated on the business contractors that he stiffed through 40 years of business. And he tried to cheat in the 2020 election. Now he's trying to cheat and win this 2026 midterm election because he knows he can't win. He has ordered Governor Greg Abbott to obey his command and cheat on the Texas redistricting scam to gerrymander 5 new, grossly and illegally drawn House districts.
And feed on that. America is a democratic republic, and it's being dismantled daily by Donald Trump. Every single House Republican is under assault by Trump and Abbott. They are telling you that your integrity, your honor, and your duty is for sale.
Republicans, in this case, are like a bunch of buzzards on the fence, waiting to swoop down on a dying carcass of democracy and feed on that. America is a democratic republic, and it's being dismantled daily by Donald Trump. Every single House Republican is under assault by Trump and Abbott. They are telling you that your integrity, your honor, and your duty is for sale, and he is the buyer. And if you obey, you will be rewarded by not being primaried. And if you stand up to him and say no, you will be punished and primaried. And it's that diabolical. It's that simple. In other words, and I don't say this lightly, in other words, he's asking each of you to be one, pardon this word, I mean in a philosophical way, not a sexual way, but he's asking every one of the Republican representatives in this room to be one of his prostitutes. And I believe that.
On the partisan issue, the American people deserve to know the whole truth about Jeffrey Epstein and every single powerful person who enabled him. Every name, every flight log, every cover-up, all of it. The White House and congressional Republicans are hiding the Epstein files. Why? These are the same politicians who call librarians groomers, who call their political opponents pedophiles. And to be clear, if there is a Democrat on that list, I will be the first to call for their prosecution. Because if there's one thing we should all be able to agree on.
Did pedophilia become a partisan issue? The American people deserve to know the whole truth about Jeffrey Epstein and every single powerful person who enabled him. Every name, every flight log, every cover-up, all of it. The White House and congressional Republicans are hiding the Epstein files. Why? These are the same politicians who call librarians groomers, who call their political opponents pedophiles. And to be clear, if there is a Democrat on that list, I will be the first to call for their prosecution. Because if there's one thing we should all be able to agree on, Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and progressives, it's that no one, including the President of the United States, should be able to cover up crimes against children.
Propaganda ads on Truth Social, awarding federal contracts to corporations in exchange for campaign contributions. Kash Patel flew his girlfriend around the country on a multi-million-dollar jet that taxpayers paid for.
The most corrupt presidential administration in American history, a $300 million ballroom, a $230 million payout from the Department of Justice because the president got his feelings hurt because he has to be investigated for being a criminal. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent at Trump-owned properties around the country, Trump-branded wine being sold at the Coast Guard exchanges, American taxpayer dollars being spent on DHS propaganda ads on Truth Social, awarding federal contracts to corporations in exchange for campaign contributions. Kash Patel flew his girlfriend around the country on a multi-million-dollar jet that taxpayers paid for. Kristi Noem gave companies she's affiliated with hundreds of millions of tax dollars, then went out and spent another $200 million on 2 private jets for her travel. For 12 months, this administration has been taking billions of taxpayer dollars from American people and have been giving it away to their own companies in the form of tax cuts, government contracts, or other government-funded subsidies. So Congress has a role in getting rid of fraud, I will admit that, in any federally funded government program. However, I think the fraud that the American people are concerned about is that the Republicans are taking away Americans' health care so that ultra-billionaires can get more tax cuts. The real fraud is the dehumanization and demonization of the working-class Americans and immigrants to distract folks away from corporate socialism that's happening because of the Republicans. So this is truly the definition of throwing away the baby with the bathwater. The Republican philosophy is that if the cost of living for the average American increases, they're on their own. But if the cost of doing business increases for the wealthiest people on earth, well, then it's the government job to bail.
Who used to live in Texas. So Tim Dillon, a right-wing podcaster who famously moved to Texas for a short period of time and then said, why am I here? And then moved back to Los Angeles. This is what he said about Trump's Gestapo, the ICE, who are now deeply unpopular, not just among Democrats and independents, but also among Republicans. Watch what Tim Dillon, a right-wing or lean right-wing podcaster, says about ICE. Here, play this clip.
Who the hell are they? We don't even know. These are people that like answered an ad on Craigslist. I mean, these people, who is joining ICE? I mean, these people are so shot. The people who are joining ICE are so shot. You know, they don't have anything going on. These are people who like a mole threw out because they couldn't do like security at a mall. They I don't know what they did, but they're out now. They maybe attacked a child or something. So I don't know who's, they got ICE in there.
Then Tim Dillon also said that the Trump regime is already done, and this is just a lame duck presidency at this point. Play this clip.
Here, and I do think, unfortunately, this kind of is the end of, and I say unfortunately, not because I care, truly, but I say unfortunately because it seems to not be doing anything good for anyone. This is the end of the Trump administration. This is the beginning of the lame duck presidency. It's obvious to everyone, even his most ardent supporters show up to the White House, like Laura Ingraham, and she's kind of shocked on what the hell's going on. Now we'll start, 3 years of talking about the ballroom. He will trail off. He will get older. He's adorned the White House in gold. Epstein's going to suck the oxygen out of a lot of this. We're going to talk about that a little later on. Apparently AI, by the way, the only thing I'm sure of about AI, I'm not an expert, is that AI, as soon as we have robots running around this country, they'll all be pedophiles too. There's no one in power that will apparently just not be a pedophile. All these robots will be pedophiles. 100% will deal with pedophile robots. Our first robot president will be a pedophile. I know that. It's the only thing I know. Our first AI robot president will absolutely.
Pedophile robots. Our first robot president will be a pedophile. I know that. It's the only thing I know.
I don't believe the cop was justified in shooting her 3 times in the face. By the way, I've always believed this, and this is something that I've caught heat for, but I've literally believed it since I'm a kid. I don't believe you should ever shoot someone in the face more than once. Seriously, I just think it's ridiculous. So that they did that, and these are not well-trained law enforcement people in ICE right now. We are taking people that did backyard wrestling. I mean, the people that are in ICE right now are, I mean, this is your cousin who like was in backyard wrestling. Like, this is tough. This is not the cream of the crop. You know the guys that kidnapped Maduro, like Delta Force, Navy SEALs? This is not them. This is not the Delta Force, Navy SEAL people. This is people that like this is people in their third grade report card the teacher wrote that has violent tendencies. You know, I mean, this is not
interesting for a state that used to be like, don't tread on me. They sure love Donald. Not all the MAGA Republican leadership. Sure, let's be clear. The MAGA Republican leadership loves the Trump regime treading on them. Most recently, Texas turned over its voter roll data to Trump's DOJ and gave away all of its citizens' date of births, driver's license numbers, last 4 digits of social security numbers, and other private information against the law to the federal government. Remember how, like, the Tea Party and the early iterations of MAGA were like, Democrats are big government, they're coming for you. Why? Michelle Obama's recommending healthier lunches. Really? That was treading on you? They're coming for you. Okay. Well, you have a ICE Gestapo, a Border Patrol militarized paramilitary force of the Trump regime rolling through cities and killing people and throwing people into concentration camps. You have the Trump DOJ right now demanding your private information. And we know also that, though, that the Doge crew took your private information as well for their AI algorithms or whatever the hell whoever the hell now has your information. But here's the latest. Texas hands over the complete list of registered voters to Trump, to the Trump administration. And it's not just turning over the list of registered voters that the DOJ wanted, but it's also identifiable information about voters, date of birth, driver's license, last 4 digits of social, which causes real big privacy concerns. And Democrats have been opposing this, saying this is illegal. And MAGA Republican Governor Abbott is like, yep, here we go. We'll just hand it over. Because the Trump regime wants to look through it and say, oh, here are the people who we don't want voting. That's what the DOJ is involved in right now. And no wonder the people are absolutely livid and pissed there. Oh, by the way, this was the clip of Donald Trump saying that he would likely veto an Affordable Care Act, the extension of the Affordable Care Act, tax subsidies here. Play this clip. Mr. President, the House has a 3-year extension of the ACA. It's in the Senate. If it passed the Senate, would you for those? I might. Yeah, I might. And then one of the key things to look for in Texas as we head to the midterms.
Mr. President, the House has a 3-year extension of the ACA. It's in the Senate. If it passes the Senate, would you veto it or allow it to?
I might, yeah. I might.
R+8 district, and Texas 34 is an R+7 district. And when Trump and Greg Abbott gerrymandered Texas, they may actually have done what's called a dummy mander, in that they base their gerrymander on their view that they've got massive Hispanic support in Texas. Well, nationwide, Donald Trump is a net negative 38 amongst the Hispanic community. And that number gets worse for Donald Trump each and every week. It used to be net negative, -2 inches February. Now it's net negative 38. And, you know, we're seeing Democratic overperformance in the various special elections. And back in November's Major Tuesday election, where there was the blue tsunami, Democrats overperforming by +12 to +15. So if you're a +7, +8, +5, +6, and Democrats are doing +12, +15, the Republicans would lose in all of those Texas seats. Watch how they describe the massive defection amongst Hispanic voters in Texas on CNN. Play this clip. Latinos have absolutely gone up and said, you know what? I don't like what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, just look at Donald Trump's not approval among Latinos. In February, it was -2 points. Not too hot to trot, but not that bad either.
Latinos have absolutely gone up and said, you know what? I don't like what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, just look at Donald Trump's net approval among Latinos. In February, it was minus 2 points. Not too hot to trot, but not that bad either. Look at where it is now. Minus 38 points. That is a shift of 36 points in the wrong direction, the completely wrong direction for Donald Trump. And what the race in Miami illustrates, I was looking at the localities, locality by locality by locality. What you see is these huge shifts in these heavily Hispanic neighborhoods of Miami against the Republican nominee from the Donald Trump baseline. And so to me, this is an encapsulation of what we see. We saw it in Arizona's 7th congressional district, right? That special election earlier this year. Again, a heavily Hispanic district. What we see is Democrats outperforming that 2024 baseline, which to me is so important because we see these national polls. You wonder, how is this actually going to impact things? And what we see is exactly what we saw last night. The first Democratic mayor of the great city of Miami since the birdcage era.
Since the birdcage era.
It's the birdcage era. Put that in the headline. Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Donald Trump gets that shocker in Texas. Negative net, negative 6 inches Texas, negative 2022 on inflation, negative 12 on the